General Hospital spoilers reveal that while Port Charles is still reeling from a recent wave of crises and dark conspiracies, Damien Spinelli unexpectedly uncovers another layer of truth, a new puzzle piece in what seemed like a gradually stabilizing chaos. In his role as legal support for Alexis Davis, Spinelli's initial task was simply to comb through data related to suspicious expenditures and vague communications between questionable parties. But as always, it was his tech skills and razor-sharp instincts that opened a gateway to a secret far more serious than anyone could have imagined. By decrypting a string of encoded emails and reconstructing backup location data from Christina's electronic devices, Spinelli stumbles upon a troubling clue directly linked to a dangerous incident at the hospital, where Elizabeth, Liz, narrowly escaped a fatal accident just weeks prior. At the time, the incident was chalked up to a technical malfunction in the hospital's pharmacy. However, further analysis of security data and access logs from restricted areas reveals that Christina was present at the location during the exact time the incident occurred. Even worse, recovered messages between Christina and an anonymous contact show signs of confusion, anxiety, and guilt, emotions conveyed through seemingly vague words that carry a heavy weight. The truth begins to unfold like a nightmare for Spinelli. This is no longer just a legal defense mission for Alexis, it's an investigation into a potential chain of dangerous behaviors, with Christina at the center. If Christina's previous act of cutting Rick's brake line was shocking enough, her possible involvement in causing serious injury to a leading nurse like Liz crosses the boundaries of forgiveness. Spinelli, ever loyal, is also a man with firm ethical principles. Now he faces a wrenching choice: to keep Christina's secret to protect her, or to face reality and prevent an even worse scenario from unfolding. Liz, once a friend who stood by Spinelli through many challenges, may now be the unsuspecting victim of a conspiracy. If her physical and emotional wounds stem from Christina's reckless actions, the truth must be brought to light. Spinelli understands that his silence could mean enabling a cycle of dangerous behavior to continue unchecked. But exposing the truth could also mean thrusting Christina, a young woman desperate for recognition and struggling to prove herself, into the unforgiving scrutiny of the law and public opinion. Things escalate dramatically when Spinelli discovers that Ava and Rick, the masterminds behind the blackmail scheme against Alexis, have already obtained part of this information. They're holding the evidence not just to manipulate, but as insurance against anyone trying to stop them. Spinelli is no longer alone in knowing the truth. He's being watched, subtly threatened. Every move he makes can be distorted, every step forward potentially derailed if he doesn't act wisely. If Spinelli chooses to act, if he decides to reveal the truth, Port Charles may witness one of the most catastrophic moral breakdowns in its history. The Corinthos family will be plunged into suspicion, chaos, and division. Alexis will be forced to face justice for her blind protection of her daughter. Christina may be convicted. And Liz, who thought she had escaped her trauma, will be forced to confront her old fears in an entirely new context. This would not just be a personal matter. It would be a seismic blow to the town's trust in one of its most powerful families. And Spinelli, with all his honesty, trust, and moral compass, will bear the weight of the consequences for whatever choice he makes. A choice no longer defined by right or wrong, but by protection versus harm, justice versus emotion, silence versus a truth too explosive to contain. With the evidence in hand and the truth weighing heavily on his heart, Spinelli knows time is running out. If he hesitates, those holding the secrets will continue to manipulate the situation, and Christina will continue to live in a dangerous lie. He must make a decision, now, before everything spirals out of control. And Port Charles is once again engulfed in a storm of truths no one is ready to face. The story unfolding in Port Charles is becoming more dangerous and unpredictable than ever. As Sonny and Alexis face one of the most fateful crossroads of their lives, protecting a daughter caught in a moral and legal crisis. Christina, the child once seen as a fragile link between two people who once loved but deeply hurt each other, is now at the center of a scandal that could shatter long-fractured relationships and open a chaotic new chapter in the Corinthos Davis family saga. Sonny, Even as he contemplates retirement and stepping away from a life of violence, can't ignore the looming threat to Christina's future. Despite their long history of conflict, he and Alexis find themselves on the same side, not as former lovers or argumentative co-parents, but as two parents fighting to preserve a glimmer of hope for their child. They both know that what Christina has done, from the brake-cutting incident involving Rick to her potential involvement in the hospital mishap that injured Liz, is beyond the scope of apologies or quiet cover-ups. What makes matters worse is Spinelli's discovery, a loyal friend, yes, but also a man with unshakable principles, now holding secrets that could destroy the entire Corinthos family if misused. Sonny knows he cannot silence Spinelli with threats. Alexis understands that empty promises won't win his trust. That's why they turn to Jason, the only one with the clarity, credibility, and emotional leverage to persuade Spinelli to stop before he inadvertently detonates a bomb of truth. Jason, long the calm at the eye of every moral storm in Port Charles, is pulled into yet another conspiracy he didn't choose. But for Christina, for Sonny, and for the memories that still live on with Alexis, he agrees to become the bridge, to offer Spinelli a proposal he cannot refuse. Not one of lies or coercion, but a chance to buy time, to find a solution that saves Christina without endangering Liz, Rick, or anyone else. Yet the situation grows increasingly complex. Spinelli is no longer just the keeper of secrets. He is now under surveillance, threatened, and standing at the intersection of conscience, friendship, and justice. If he accepts Jason's offer, is he betraying his ideals? If he refuses, does he risk sending Christina to prison, tarnishing Alexis's name, and putting himself in danger while Ava and Rick manipulate from the shadows? Sonny, drifting further from the life of violence, is once again pulled into the darkness he tried to leave behind. Alexis, having paid dearly for her past choices, now faces sacrificing her honor to protect her daughter. And Jason, scarred by both sides of his life, becomes the axis on which the fate of those he loves turns. The negotiation with Spinelli is no longer just a conversation. It is a battle between duty and truth, emotion and morality, secrecy and revelation. And at the center of it all, Christina, still unaware of the full impact of her actions, remains the eye of the storm. But if she knew that her parents were risking everything to save her from a disaster that could destroy her future, would she remain silent? Or would she be the one to light the signal flare for another truth that must be spoken? In this chaos, Port Charles is bracing for another explosion. And no matter how hard Sonny, Alexis, or Jason try, perhaps what they need most now isn't strategy or strength, but forgiveness, from the daughter they're trying to protect. And from each other, people who lost trust but never stopped loving. Spinelli is entering a moral gray zone where every action he takes could trigger an irreversible chain of disasters. He's no longer just a tech genius hacking data on demand, he has become the keeper of a secret powerful enough to change the fate of several people close to him, especially Christina. What began as a simple investigation to help Alexis avoid legal consequences has spiraled into a whirlwind even Spinelli didn't anticipate. From encrypted codes and irregular bank transfers, he uncovered a horrifying truth. Alexis paid a large sum of money to cover up her daughter's crime. Christina had deliberately cut Rick's brake lines, causing the accident that nearly killed him. This revelation not only left Spinelli stunned, but also raised agonizing questions about morality and loyalty. A man who once stood for justice, who once sacrificed his own freedom to protect those he loved, Spinelli now faces a bitter choice: expose Christina and shatter Alexis's world, or remain silent and accept that he's enabling a serious criminal act. The hardest part isn't the data analysis, his specialty, but the emotional torment of knowing that any decision will cost him a piece of his own soul. Things worsen when Jason and Sonny enter the picture. Jason, ever rational and clear-headed, knows Christina's dangerous act cannot go unpunished. Sonny, both Christina's biological father and a man with a history of impulsive violence, might choose a bloody path if he learns the truth, possibly targeting Rick or Ava in retaliation. This could ignite a full-blown war within the Corinthos family, tearing apart their already fragile bonds. And Spinelli, now holding the match that could light the fire, may find himself cast aside if it all explodes. What's more terrifying is that Christina, emotionally fragile and a survivor of many personal crises, is now threatened by her own reckless actions. Spinelli understands her inner chaos, but sympathy is not enough to shield her from legal consequences. If the truth comes to light, Christina won't just face jail, she'll lose everything. Her reputation, her career, and the fragile trust she's struggled to rebuild. However, the true complexity lies not with Christina alone, but with Ava and Rick, two manipulators using the secret as blackmail leverage against Alexis. Ava struck a deal with Rick to bury the accident, in exchange for Alexis's full compliance in unrelated legal matters. Spinelli knows that if he doesn't act, Ava will continue to exploit the situation, and Alexis will keep paying, with her pride and her career. Yet acting too soon could ruin whatever covert plan Jason is devising to protect both Christina and Alexis. In this moment, Spinelli must make a life-altering decision. Choose the safety of silence, or step into danger and take a stand. He is being watched, not just by Ava and Rick, but also by those who've always trusted him to be a man of integrity. If he stays silent, Spinelli may live with guilt forever. But if he speaks out, he risks destroying his relationship with Alexis, who sees him as family. Worse, his actions could push Sonny over the edge, and the family they've tried to hold together may fall apart completely. The emotional strain is pushing Spinelli to the brink. He can't sleep. He can't sit still. Every moment feels like the one where everything could collapse. His long nights are haunted by encrypted audio files, manipulated data, and cleverly linked bank accounts between Ava, Rick, and unknown players hiding in the shadows. Spinelli realizes he's on the brink of something far bigger than a car accident, a conspiracy possibly tied to the underground criminal web Sonny once fought to escape. Torn between duty, loyalty, and an obsessive pursuit of truth, Spinelli must decide: protect Christina by keeping the secret, or expose everything and place his faith in justice. No matter what he chooses, Port Charles will never be the same. When a man like Spinelli is forced to act, it means the final line between ethics and compromise has been crossed, and that is the true nightmare no one is prepared to face. In a fateful moment caught between loyalty and principle, Spinelli chooses the dangerous path. He decides to cover up Christina's crime. This decision is not merely about affection for Alexis or sympathy for Christina, but a clear reflection of one of the most dangerous internal changes taking root within him, a willingness to compromise with darkness for the sake of family. This is no longer the old Spinelli, the man who once lived by truth and justice. This is a new Spinelli, driven by fear and the haunting belief that if he doesn't protect Christina, the entire Davis family could be destroyed. His actions mark one of the most critical turning points in Port Charles, where justice begins to bend under the weight of blind loyalty. When Spinelli tampers with data, forges code, and obstructs evidence that could lead to Christina, he opens the door to a chain of unforeseen catastrophes. This is no longer just about covering up the mistake of a troubled girl, it's enabling behavior that could escalate to deadly consequences, especially if Christina continues to act recklessly. Emboldened by protection from those like Spinelli, the threat now extends beyond Rick Lansing and Ava Jerome, the masterminds behind the blackmail. Spinelli himself becomes a vital link in a criminal conspiracy. These choices create a dangerous imbalance in the moral fabric of Port Charles. Every misstep not only endangers Spinelli but puts Jason, Sonny, Alexis, and even Liz at risk if the truth is exposed. The guilt begins to consume Spinelli. He can no longer sleep soundly. He can't look Christina in the eye without feeling the burden of the secret he's hiding. The doctored audio files, the fake bank records, the data wipe scripts, all serve as painful reminders that he has crossed his own moral boundaries. But worse still, Christina, whom he's trying to protect, is beginning to spiral. Shielded by her mother and Spinelli, she starts to believe she's untouchable, that she can escape any consequence, no matter how serious. Meanwhile, Sonny begins to sense something is wrong. His instincts as a father make him attuned to the shifts in Spinelli's behavior, his unusual silence, the nervous glances. Sonny knows Spinelli to be an honest man, and that kind of silence is a red flag. If Sonny digs deeper and uncovers the cover-up, it won't just be Christina who falls. Spinelli could be permanently exiled from the inner circle of trust. Spinelli understands this risk, but he chooses to keep going. He's in too deep to back out. He begins fabricating evidence to clear Christina, falsifying records of a mechanical brake failure, creating a fake persona to falsely claim Rick staged the crash to frame Christina. Everything is too perfect, suspiciously perfect, but cloaked in a layer of technology only minds like Jason's or Spinelli's could dissect. And within that perfection, a new disaster begins to take form. Ava, ever calculating, senses the shift. She starts investigating Spinelli, retracing the data he thought was erased. This could lead to a devastating showdown, where secrets aren't just exposed but lives are put at risk, including those who thought they were protected behind walls of technology. The disaster is no longer hypothetical, it's unfolding, spreading like a wildfire out of control. And in the eye of that storm stands Spinelli, not as the savior, but as the man who lit the match. Out of misguided loyalty, out of reckless calculation, and out of love given at the wrong time to a family drowning in its own darkness. As the intricate blackmail scheme of Rick Lansing and Ava Jerome begins to collapse under the weight of evidence unintentionally uncovered by Damian Spinelli, Port Charles descends into unprecedented chaos. The power players who once held the balance from the shadows now face the risk of exposure and prosecution. But if the people of Port Charles believe the fall of this blackmail plot will bring peace, they are in for a much bigger shock, because Rick has a backup plan. A scheme even more insidious and ruthless, with Jason Morgan and Sasha Corbin's unborn child as primary targets. While Rick once used the evidence of the brake line tampering to pressure Alexis Davis and manipulated Ava into spreading misinformation, now that the whole operation teeters on the brink of being exposed, he shifts his attack, this time, weaponizing the legal system against Jason. This is no longer a personal feud among a few individuals, it's a well-orchestrated campaign to dismantle one of the most powerful men in Port Charles. Rick understands that Jason isn't just a protector or a soon-to-be father, he's a symbol of honor and loyalty to many. To shake that belief, Rick needs more than baseless accusations, he needs a narrative, a strategy, a chain of events strong enough to bring Jason down emotionally and legally. That story begins with smearing Jason's role in Sasha's life and that of the child she's carrying. Rick begins to dig into Jason's violent past, using old records from his time as Sonny Corinthos' enforcer to paint him as a cold-blooded man, unfit to be the legal father of any child. He approaches judges, influences local media, and leaks dark truths about Jason to the press. Rick knows well that public opinion can be the deadliest weapon, even against the innocent. Meanwhile, Sasha becomes the center of controversy. She faces a harrowing choice: speak out to defend Jason, risking herself and her baby becoming targets of a corrupted legal system, or stay silent to protect her child's safety but lose herself and the man she trusts most. A brutal inner conflict wages within Sasha, between her duty as a mother, her unspoken feelings for Jason, and her fear of Rick turning her child into a legal pawn. Jason, for his part, is not someone who breaks easily, but it is precisely his loyalty to those he loves that makes him most vulnerable. He cannot retaliate against Rick like a mobster would, he knows every move is being watched. Nor can he walk away from Sasha and the unborn child, a family he never got to build. Now one he must protect at all costs. For Jason, this isn't just a legal battle, it's a fight for the future of a child and a chance at a life redeemed. Rick, though defeated in his first blackmail scheme, proves even more dangerous when cornered. He quietly searches for evidence to discredit Jason, even considering leveraging his ties to the medical and police systems to fabricate claims that Jason is manipulating Sasha through her unstable emotional state. If proven in court, Jason could be barred from contact with both Sasha and the child, possibly monitored in all future child-related matters. And if Rick fails against Jason, he has another card to play. Attacking Sonny Corinthos. The strained yet volatile relationship between the two brothers could be pushed into full-blown conflict if Rick reveals evidence that could affect Sonny's custody or involvement in the lives of Christina or Donna. Rick knows that by targeting the loved ones of men who once lived in the shadows, the pain he inflicts will be doubled. As the major forces in Port Charles collide openly, the legal system, the press, and public figures are all drawn into a vortex of disorder. And while everyone's eyes are on the escalating battle between Rick and Jason, no one sees Ava, Rick's former partner in crime, quietly plotting her own revenge, targeting those who caused her downfall. This war is not just about fatherhood, custody, or reputation, it's about survival once all secrets are exposed. If Jason loses, he loses everything. If Rick loses, he's past the point of return. And if Sasha fails to make the right decision in time, her child will be pulled into a war with no way out. In a world where truth is distorted, honor is for sale, and family ties are tested to their breaking point, one thing is certain. The storm in Port Charles is only just beginning.